So, as I mentioned on Saturday, this would be the second of sort of a three-part series on desire and craving. And so this morning, I want to talk about desire as the strongest emotion. And, we human beings are driven by this complex interplay of emotions, shaping how we think, how we act, how we feel, how we experience the world. But among all of that whole range of things, desire really stands out as one of the most potent and pervasive forces. It's not merely an emotion, it's, even though I call it that, it's really this dynamic energy that is constantly propelling us to seek, to strive, and to attain. And obviously, it evolved in early humans and other species to help us survive. I mean, it was really essential to our survival. And it serves a number of functions. It can fuel creativity, it can fuel ambition, it can fuel progress. But it can also, on the flip side, it can bind us to suffering and dissatisfaction and attachment. In Buddhism, desire, the Pali word is tanha, T-A-N-H-A-A, which really translates as craving, is identified as a central cause of suffering. We talked about that on Saturday. And it underscores its immense power over the human experience, over the human journey. So today I want to explore a little bit about why we consider it the strongest emotion. Its role in how it shapes our lives and how we approach it skillfully and with wisdom. Desire emerges from this fundamental human tendency to seek pleasure and avoid pain. So we have this desire to seek pleasure and this desire to avoid pain. And it manifests as this yearning for something we lack or wish to experience, or as this yearning to get away from things which we find unpleasant. And on the positive side, or on the seeking side, the yearning side, it might be material possessions, it might be connection in relationship with others, it might be status, it might be intangible goals such as happiness or enlightenment. And it's not confined just to the realm of the physical. It extends to our mental habits, our mental constructs, such as the desire for knowledge, the desire for spiritual progress, and on and on. And what makes it so powerful and so dominant is its ability to really take over the mind and drive our action. It can really just sort of take over the rest of us. It's inherently future oriented. It's not about the past. It's always about something out there, pulling us out of the present moment. That's one of the things it does. And into this realm of imagined fulfillment. Okay, so if I'm going to imagine fulfilling this desire. And unlike more fleeting emotions such as anger or joy that sort of rise and fall quickly, desire often lingers, if you think about it. It sort of sustains itself through anticipation, planning, thinking about it. It creates this sort of magnetic pull that shapes our choices, directs our choices, influences our behavior, and becomes very often the central organizing principle of our lives. It is that central and powerful when we really start to take a look at it. So if you think about for a moment, consider the power of desire in your own life, you could begin to get a feeling for just how central and pervasive it is. Now, it also has this undeniable creative and constructive side. It's nothing wrong with desire. It's how we manage it, which is pretty much true for everything we talk about here. It's the force that motivates human progress and human innovation over the millennia. If you look at all the human progress and innovation, it's a desire to make life easier. It's the desire to obtain wealth. It's the desire to create things. It's the desire to create beautiful art. I mean, it's just everywhere. And without desire, civilizations would have stagnated. They would have, individuals would have lacked the impetus to grow, to explore, to achieve. So it's really fundamental to who we are as a species. For example, The desire for knowledge has driven scientific discoveries, medical discoveries, technological advances. The desire for connection has fostered art, literature, culture, community. And even in the spiritual realm, the desire for liberation or for enlightenment inspires individuals, inspires us to undertake transformative journeys to begin to walk this path. It's why we follow the Buddha's teachings, the desire to bring about positive change in our lives, because it also provides the energy to overcome challenges and to hang in there and persist in the face of adversity. A student who's burning with desire to excel will dedicate themselves to their studies, just as an artist driven by the desire to create will pour their soul into their craft. They'll spend hours at the easel painting or sculpting or whatever. And in this way, desire is a positive catalyst for growth and the realization of our potential. But despite all that, and despite its constructive aspects, it can also be destructive. Remember, the Buddha identified it as the root cause of suffering. So this desire, and I'm sort of using desire and craving interchangeably, but there is a sort of subtle difference. And technically, desire is the expression of a longing. Craving is more of an expression of neediness, but we're going to conflate them. We're going to sort of lump them together. But the problem with that said is not desire itself. It's the way it manifests as clinging and attachment. Desire can either be this force for positive change, or it can become a source of suffering in the form of clinging and attachment. And when it becomes obsessive or unbalanced, it leads to dissatisfaction, it leads to frustration, and it can even lead to harm. And this is usually because the desire arises from a misunderstanding of reality, an expectation that obtaining the object of desire will bring not temporary, but lasting fulfillment and lasting happiness. If I only get that new iPhone, I'll be happy forever. We don't articulate that, but there's that sense that it's not impermanent, that whatever it brings. And because the nature of life is impermanent, everything we desire is subject to change. So when we cling to things, whether that's relationships, people, possessions, achievements, we set ourselves up for disappointment when these things inevitably change or even go away. For example, the desire for wealth can lead to greed and unethical behavior. The desire for love can lead to possessiveness and jealousy. This is all unskillful ways that desire manifests. So that when unchecked, desire becomes a source of suffering rather than joy. Desire is insatiable. Once a desire is fulfilled, another typically arises in its place. It's constantly rearing its head. And this can create this cycle of perpetual longing, what's known as samsara in Buddhist teachings. The more we chase after fulfillment through external means, looking outside ourselves, the more we reinforce internally this sense of lack, the sense of incompleteness. I need X, Y, or Z out there to feel whole in here. Desire's strength relies in its dual nature. It is both deeply personal and universally human. And as I said at the outset, it permeates every aspect of our lives, from basic survival instincts to these lofty aspirations. Now, unlike other emotions that are often situational or reactive in the moment, desire tends to be proactive. It creates its own momentum. It causes us to seek, to strive, to act, to go after things. And it has this unique capacity to intertwine with other emotions and will often amplify their intensity. So, for example, desire can intensify love or, an attachment to someone, and it transforms it from just passion into anger, control, even turning it into revenge if our love goes unrequited. And it's pervasive in that it influences not only our emotions, but as I said, our thoughts, our behaviors, and even our identities. Often when we define ourselves by what we desire, our goals, our dreams, our ambitions, this becomes the central part of who we are. And this all-encompassing nature of desire is what makes it so strong. It's not just a fleeting feeling, it's a force that shapes the trajectory of our lives. Now that said, it can inspire us to great heights. But on the other side, it can also chain us to dissatisfaction and suffering. And this is why we have to manage it and address it with discernment and wisdom. It has to be managed or we're going to suffer tremendously. In the Buddhist framework, as with most things, the goal is not to eradicate desire, but to transform our relationship with it. Interestingly, the Buddha, again in his infinite wisdom, distinguished between wholesome desires called chandas, chanda in the Pali, and unwholesome cravings, which he called tanha. Wholesome desires, such as the desire to cultivate compassion, seek deep connection with others, to practice our mindfulness, leads to growth, satisfaction, and liberation. But unwholesome cravings and desires, on the other hand, often are rooted in ignorance and misunderstanding reality, and rooted in attachment, which just perpetuates the cycle of suffering. And we have to enlist our mindfulness practice to understanding and managing and discerning between the differences, the two types of desire. As desires arise, we can see with our wisdom and discernment the impermanent and conditioned nature of them, so that we respond to them with wisdom rather than just being swept away and becoming prisoner of them. But instead of clinging to them or repressing them, we allow them to arise. We watch them arise. We watch them pass away naturally, like all phenomena that are impermanent. But the Buddha's teachings offers practical tools for transforming them, such as our meditation, such as wisdom, such as ethical conduct, such as the cultivation of contentment. Because we begin to recognize the futility of chasing after external fulfillment. We turn inward, we discover a deeper, more enduring source of contentment. And this is the essence of the Buddha's teachings. Because true freedom does not lie in satisfying every desire. It's an endless treadmill. We can't get off it. But it lies in liberating ourselves from this grip of craving and clinging and attachment that we talked about on Saturday. So desire is the strongest emotion. It's the driving force behind so much human thought and action, but it has the power to inspire greatness or to bind us to suffering. When we recognize the dual nature, that's the key to harnessing its potential and avoiding its pitfalls. The path to liberation lies not in rejecting it, even if we wanted to or could, but in understanding its nature and transforming our relationship with it. Because the strength of desire is a reflection of the human condition. It's that central. And our longing to connect, to grow, and find meaning is fueled by wholesome desire. When we approach it with mindfulness, when we approach it with wisdom, we transcend its limitations. We discover a deeper, more abiding contentment and peace. So our challenge is to learn to navigate the currents of desire skillfully and find freedom amidst the ever-changing waves of life, the constant flow of life. So that's desire is the strongest emotion.